Why full body maintenance can improve mental illness too? Maybe it's because clinical medicine's basic stance is not why symptoms appear, but how to control such symptoms. The human brain that is accumulated with heavy metals becomes more sensitive to anxiety. It's not the result of the individual personality. This is a logic that cures even mental illness with only full body maintenance that, on the other hand, most of the symptomatic drugs that play a central role in clinical medicine lead the human body into an unnatural state. Welcome to this channel. This is a supplementary video to explain a part of the content of our second video. I'm not English speaker, so if my pronunciation is not so good, please refer to subtitles. Then while editing the second video, the editing staff asked me a question. It's understandable that full body maintenance faithful to basic medicine can improve physical diseases. But it's hard to understand why full body maintenance can improve mental illness too. It makes me question the credibility of this information. He said so. Certainly, if mental illness is considered in the current medical common sense based on clinical medicine, it's natural for him to have such a question. Probably not just him, but many people will have the same question, so I felt the need for a supplementary explanation. What we need to know here is the negative effect of heavy metals on the brain and nerves. Actually, many epidemiological research reports have been submitted on this subject. For example, about the effect on the brain. Our brain has a barrier function called the blood-brain barrier, BBB. Since the brain is an extremely delicate organ, so the substances that can enter it must be carefully selected. And it's the blood-brain barrier, BBB, that plays the role of such careful selection. Many substances in the blood cannot pass through this barrier. However, heavy metals are able to pass through this BBB and enter the brain, and it's well known that it causes Alzheimer's, etc. However, in the world of clinical medicine, the pollution and accumulation of these heavy metals is not considered important. Maybe it's because clinical medicine's basic stance is not why symptoms appear, but how to control such symptoms. For example, let's say the police receive a call from residents like this. There's a gunfight going on in the neighborhood bank. Please do something about it. Then the police rush to the crime scene and confiscated guns from the security guard without securing the criminals. As a result, certainly the gunfight was over. Then, as here, it's clinical medicine that is satisfied with the fact that the gunfight was over. Furthermore, it's the patient who is satisfied that the quiet night has returned. However, the criminals who actually caused the gunfight still remain in the patient's body. This can't be right, but this is the true reality of clinical medicine. So those of us who have no access to basic medical research, influenced only by the common sense of clinical medicine, neglect the invisible heavy metal pollution. We are completely defenseless against the entry of heavy metals into our bodies. And as mentioned above, the accumulation of heavy metal in the brain causes serious Alzheimer's, etc. In addition, attention should also be paid to the prestige of developing such serious diseases. Accumulation of heavy metal in the brain has a negative impact on the brain, even if it's right. The human brain that is accumulated with heavy metals becomes more sensitive to anxiety. It's not the result of the individual personality. For example, anxiety, whether the numerical data has been remembered correctly. Another anxiety, it cannot be stopped checking the lock repeatedly when going out. Yet another anxiety, it cannot be stopped washing hands abnormally. And fear of closed space, etc. My wife's doctor said most of these are actually due to accumulation of heavy metals in the brain, not by personality. And when I met the doctor, I was suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder (OCD) that I couldn't stop washing my hands abnormally. Of course, since I was a child, I have never had such personality at all. Raising insects, fishing, crayfish catching in a swamp. I liked them and never felt any discomfort. However, when my wife became bedridden and I started caring for her, my obsessive compulsive disorder (OCD) began at the same time. I had to keep my wife's body clean, so my hands always had to be clean too. Such a sense of duty was destroying my normal feeling. Then a few years later, my wife and I met that respected doctor. Yes, it is that doctor who has cured my wife's 4 incurable diseases and inoperable cancer. That doctor said, judgments made by the brain filled with anxiety due to metal pollution naturally fall into a negative spiral. In this case, a personality doesn't matter, so to speak. It states that the computer is infected with a troublesome virus that reads everything to negative answer. Upon hearing it, I received a heavy metal detox called chelation therapy. Then the obsessive compulsive disorder (OCD) that had plagued me for several years gradually disappeared. I heard that sometimes even severe depression can be improved by heavy metal detox alone, without even counseling, and it is not a rare case. And others, I met a patient whose blood-brain barrier (BBB) didn't work enough that allowed chemicals to enter the brain easily. However, in clinical medicine, there is not even grounds to consider the adverse effects of chemicals on the brain, same as for heavy metals. The current clinical examination cannot detect the accumulation of chemical substances in local areas of the body. So, in clinical medicine, it's out of consideration. However, they can definitely be a major cause of diseases. The following cases show it. That patient, whose blood-brain barrier didn't work enough, was also diagnosed with severe depression in many hospitals and had been taking symptomatic medications for many years. Nevertheless, she didn't recover at all. On the contrary, her mental illness continued to worsen the more she took the symptomatic medication. When I first met her, certainly her symptoms only seemed to be very severe mental illness. Crying and shouting at midnight, thoughts of suicide, hallucinations. However, surprisingly, such long-lasting and very serious symptoms were completely recovered in just a few days with a detox of chemicals alone. There was absolutely no need for counseling or symptomatic medications. I saw it with my own eyes, and I heard many stories directly from that patient. If the function of the blood-brain barrier is insufficient due to damage of the brain or excessive exposure to chemicals, it's necessary to be more cautious about the entry of foreign substances into the body than healthy people. This is because in such cases, heavy metals, chemicals, and opportunistic infections easily invade the brain and produce incurable symptoms. In addition, abnormal sensitivity to electromagnetic waves is often seen when the BBB is not functioning enough. They are sensitive to electrical noise that ordinary people don't feel and frequently have a tendency to not be able to touch electrical appliances. So if you are suffering from the above symptoms, having a broader perspective than just symptomatic treatment may bring an expected good result. I know many cases of them and their improvement. I've also seen many solutions. So if you are suffering from those symptoms, please try to send me email. Of course, I may not be able to answer every inquiry. However, I may be able to provide reference examples. Anyway, as mentioned above, many symptoms that are diagnosed as mental illnesses are actually caused by foreign substances that have accumulated in the body. And just by removing those foreign substances, many mental illnesses also begin to recover automatically. This is a logic that cures even mental illness with only full body maintenance that is faithful to basic medicine. However, current clinical medicine has no other choice but to use symptomatic drugs in the dark to treat all of these. While every foreign substance that is cause of the problem is left in the brain, additional chemicals called symptomatic drugs are added to it. But at least for the patients I met, such symptomatic drugs only increase the cause of the worsening of their condition. Of course, this is very important point. It's very dangerous to stop symptomatic treatment immediately at the patient's own judgment. It should never be done. However, it's possible to detoxify heavy metals and chemicals at the same time while continuing symptomatic treatment. It's just maintenance of the body, so there is no need to worry about offsetting the effects of the symptomatic treatment. There is no danger. And since it brings surprisingly good results frequently, it's well worth trying. Human body is programmed to automatically heal itself by restoring its natural state. I feel that such words of our doctor are the truth of medicine, and basic medicine has already almost served such truths. On the other hand, most of the symptomatic drugs that play a central role in clinical medicine lead the human body into an unnatural state. Of course, clinical medicine is also an indispensable medical tool for us. However, if we want to cure diseases, we need to be careful about how to use clinical medicine. It relieves unpleasant symptoms, but can worsen the diseases more and more. Please check the full version of second video again to get a better understanding of the details. Then in the next time, I'm gonna explore the possibility of curing incurable epilepsy as the first concrete example from such a perspective. Thank you very much.